still on Tanzania and the arrests and the fact that Meta has actually, discontinued the accounts of some of the activists. So we still have our guests with us. We have Lucy Azemba, Senior Program Manager, Policy Lab Africa, and also Ridwan Adelaja, Tech Analyst. Thank you so much, gentleman and lady, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
All right, so let me just start with that, the first question that I asked. Let me pass that question to you, Lucy. Looking at this, Meta says it restricted Maria's account for legal order from Tanzanian regulators. Kimambi's Instagram was taken down under Meta's recidivism policy. But we have critics say that her posts were evidence of killings after the October 29th election. Tell us, Lucy, what are we seeing here? How unusual is it for a government to, directly influence what people can or cannot see online? And what does that tell us about Tanzania's direction?
Thank you very much for having me here. I mean, this is very unusual. This Kamambi has 2.7 million followers on her Instagram. These are critical voices in Tanzania, critical activist voices in Tanzania, and it's very unusual in a time like this when they are reporting post-election protests for their accounts to be taken down, be it under recidivism policy or shadow banning. I mean, even if these laws, the Meta would say, okay, these laws are legal, there's something called context specific. There's human rights assessments. You can go through this thing. It is not in a trying time like this. Considering the fact that even before the Tanzania election, this protest has been ongoing. And after there was like so many live ammunition during the election. There was like a lot of things that are happening to the opposition party, a lot of attacks that were going on to the opposition party. And these post-election protests are being shown highlight. These critical voices, these big accounts are places for like documentation. They are places you go to. If I'm trying to, from Lagos, Nigeria, if I'm trying to get information off Instagram, off the net, aside the news channels, I would go to these activist pages. And taking it down at this critical time, it's very targeted. It's very unusual. I mean, we've seen these patterns that are done. This is not the first time. These patterns have been done before. But it is not time like this. You cannot say that, that you're trying to implement a recidivism policy you have. At a time like this, why not take it down another time? Why not do it some other? At a time like this, that is when, and it's for these activist voices that are posting. And I mean, according to reports, they're posting things that are happening post-election. They're trying to create
evidence.
They're trying to create awareness. They're trying to bring eyes to this thing, and all of a sudden, one person's account is shadow ban, the other person's account is facing a recidivism policy. So it's just simple like the government can, as simple as a court order, as simple as an email, and then voices, important voices that are highlighting critical things that are happening in nations would just be silenced. This is erasing dissent.
Lucy, the opposition groups actually claim that the death toll from the post-election crackdown could be in hundreds, right? While rights groups say that the bodies were even removed overnight. So why is it so difficult to verify these numbers, and who benefits from that uncertainty?
I mean, these are the issues I'm talking about. When these very critical voices silenced, the government can control the narrative, or the offender, in this case, which is government. So if you're silencing those voices, if on one hand they are saying, there are lots of body, and on the other hand, the government is reporting that it's very possible to have 2,000 bodies killed or anything. But if the bodies are moved overnight, you cannot know the true story if there is no awareness, if there's no information. Lack of information is very, 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 very dangerous. We cannot know the true stories to these things. So we cannot say this is the amount, this is what is ongoing, this is what is happening. Because when you're taking down this, having these takedowns on Meta, you're taking down these important news channels of activists that are trying to create awareness on this problem. We cannot have the accurate information. And I mean, in this case, it's the government that's trying to benefit from this. They're trying to control the narrative and everything, because you would not know. If I'm not currently in Salem, Tanzania. I'm trying to get information. It is very easy for the controlling hand, for the upper hand, to control the narrative.
All right, so I'm told that we also have Abdullahi Alas, his governance and policy analyst. Thank you so much, Abdullahi, for joining us. So just before we come to, just before we come to Abdullahi, let me just ask one question to Lucy. Lucy, now Maria has called this a cover-up of a massacre, you know, by removing the only evidence of these alleged extrajudicial killings. Now, can Meta legally be considered an accessory to these crimes in international courts?
I mean, legally, they cannot be considered an accessory because resident policy is part of the policies of Meta, and it is also a government body in Africa can send a mail and ask these platforms to take down certain accounts. I mean, content moderation is part of the cybersecurity law, but we know that these laws in Africa are vague. We know that these laws in Africa are vague. They cannot fully be legally considered an accessory to this. However, like I mentioned before, there is something called context specific. You cannot just implement these rules. You cannot just throw on these rules without looking at it. The UN guidelines stated this thing. For context specific cases like this, it can be seen that you're trying to aid the government in censorship. You're trying to silence voices that are very important. So there are ways to go about this thing. You assess the week. You create an appeal where the challenged can actually appeal for this thing. Why is my account being taken down? Why is my account being shadow banned? The content moderation is supposed to suppress things like hate speech, misinformation from terrorist group, or everything. But because of how vague some of these laws are in some of these laws, African laws, especially on cybersecurity, they're empty loopholes. It can just be used anyhow. I mean, that's why civic actors are speaking now, because this content moderation can lead to suppressing of voices. It can lead to suppressing of freedom of speech. We're supposed to experience freedom of speech on this platform. I mean, Meta owns Instagram, they own WhatsApp. These are two very important platforms. You cannot just implement every single thing that's been given to you. There are ways to go about this thing. There are assessing of the risk, there are mitigating of the risk, there are smaller ways to go about this thing. And like I would keep saying, I mean, it is a policy under Meta. It is done. But why is it now, at this very critical moment, that these things are happening? I mean, you can as well lock down Kamabi's accounts every other time. Why is it now that post-election violence are being reported? Why is it now that it's very important to gather this information that is happening?
All right, Lucy, thank you for that. Now let's move to Abdullahi. Abdullahi, let's have your thoughts on this, because the government has cited incitement to violence as the reason for these takedowns. So what do you think? Do you think that there is any evidence that these activists were inciting violence, or were they merely documented the state's own violent response to protests?
Good evening from Nairobi, and good evening to Africa. You know, when governments say that we are shutting down because they're spreading violence, the question is, who is causing the violence? It's the governments, because governments have monopoly of violence. Now, what some of these characters don't understand is some of them are very old. They're in their 60s, they're in their 70s. They do not know, even if you shut down the internet, what happens to the recording of this information? It's going to be archived. It's going to be recorded, because here in Kenya, there are more than 28 million Kenyans below 38 years with smartphones. So they're still going to be recorded. If someone has incited violence, then what it means is that you take them to police, you arrest them, you read them their rights, you take them to court. You don't shut the internet. But now when you shut the internet, I heard my friend and you guys talking about cover-up. Yes, what are you hiding? Governments do not naturally get transparent with their violence, because the police officers or the military or the security operators or the police dressed in civilian, whether they are from the intelligence community or from the the military, they are also people, mostly in these kind of scenarios, who are covertly outside government machinery, who are brandishing guns and unbranded with no number plate cars. So I think Madam Suluhu should know that the Africa she is now leading is not the Africa she was born. This Africa is different. Majority of these people are below 38, 40, 25, educated. They need computer science, journalism, they're advocates, they're doctors. You cannot compare us, in the millennials and the guys in the Gen Zs with the time she was going to school. Currently, the Africa is connected because of Twitter. What is the essence of social media? The essence of social media is for people to practice citizen journalism. It's not those of us who went to journalism only who practice it. We have citizen journalists. They have a phone. They train themselves on how to record. They have a voice because they are educated. They might not know that it is not ethically correct for the media to release graphics and share the images of people you do not have permission, because for you to be a journalist in Kenya, whether you are foreign or national, you must be licensed by Kenya Media Council. But it does not stop people to record, because there is freedom of information, access to information. There is freedom of people reporting. It is a social responsibility for Africans to put governments on task. So I think Nigeria, Tanzania government led by Madam Suluhu, with all due respect, we are not in that era. This is the country of Julius Nyerere. We cannot allow these kind of things to happen in Africa. They tried it here in June last year. Kenya is quite robust and very informed country, relatively very educated, competing with South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, and Tunisia. We cannot accept that, and the government of Tanzania is wrong to shut the media. It has the right to arrest people because they can maintain law and order.
Yeah. Well, let's see if Ridwan has the same thoughts. Ridwan, for many Tanzanians, right, especially the youth, Instagram and WhatsApp are their primary news sources. So it makes you wonder what it means, when the voices documenting these violence are suddenly removed, from those platforms. So tell us, what do you think? Do you think that Meta is complicit in this? Do you see Meta's compliance with the government as a one-off event, or does this set a precedent, that other African governments could copy when facing political pressure?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, you see, it's something that is not so sweet to discuss, especially when you look at what the challenge is. Nobody nowhere in the world wants to be silenced, of course, and that is the pain point, especially for young people who are very active on social media. The least they can do is to contribute to the progress of their country or their community. And one of those ways that they do that is by reporting what they get to see. And beyond reporting, it is just their own window to the world. So when you go about silencing them, there is this pain that comes out of that to show that they cannot really contribute to the community that they want to claim. But again, sometimes it seems like we need to know where to draw the line. A government would always want to protect its entity. And I think that is the sentiment sometimes. That is the bias sometimes. It seems to us that government will tell you, you are free to do this, you are free to do that. But the time when you want to express that,
all right, we seem to have lost Ridwan. Ridwan, can you hear me? All right, so I'm being told that Bonga Abdallah, political scientist and lawyer from Maputo, has also joined us. Bonga, thank you so much for joining us. All right, so Bonga, if you can hear me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you can hear me, Bonga, let's have your thoughts on this, because more than 200 protesters, as we know, and opposition figures have been charged with serious offenses, including treason. So what does that scale of prosecution say about the government's willingness to tolerate dissent right now?
Precisely talking about the Benin, the situation. Well, first of all, it is a fact that the group inside the military tried to...
Oh, no, we're actually talking about Tanzania, not Benin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All
right, so let's just allow you gather your thoughts, Bonga. Let me pass that question back to Abdullahi. Abdullahi, please let's have your thoughts on that.
Governments generally, whether in Kenya or in Africa, they are led by characters who are very old. They can't, cope up with how the young men and women in Africa want to be led. This is a different world. It's a world of social media. It's a world of technology. They are connected today. I'm in Nairobi, communicating to a TV station in Lagos and talking to my African brothers across the world. So it is incumbent upon African presidents who were born during the eras of these independent days, or maybe they grew up under presidents who oppressed them. That era is gone. The principle number one of any leader in his country is to use his brain, wealth, and character to develop the flourishing of his country. If you look at Africa 60 years after independence, 62 years after independence for some country, we are still wallowing in poverty. We are still using WhatsApp and Telegram. What happened to us developing our own apps and liberating Africa? So this is a very bigger problem on the issue of economy, and the issue of security, on the issue of health and technology. So I think it's time, because if they can switch off the Instagram and WhatsApp, then tomorrow what happens if they disable Google? Then what are we going to use to connect, on all other websites, Gmail, Zoom, all these things. So I think what we need to do as a country or as a continent is, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead, Abdullahi.
Yeah. So what we need to do is, China has left the Google world. What they did is they developed their own world. Today they are not using GPS. It is time for Africans to develop their own. I'm sorry, my phone is getting me problems.
It's fine.
So it's time for Africans to,
Please go ahead, Abdullahi. It's fine. All right. I think, we would actually have to go back to Lucy. Lucy, if you can hear me, we actually saw similar patterns, in Myanmar and Ethiopia. Why do you think that Meta's oversight board consistently fails to protect dissident voices in the global south during critical moments of state violence?
Generally, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Generally, the oversight board tends to be slow in protecting voices in the global south. That's just the basic truth. So, like you said, we've seen similar pattern in Ethiopia, now we're seeing it in Tanzania. So they're not it's not like, these patterns happen a lot, especially in African countries where internet restriction, shutdown can just happen. Like Abdulrahim was trying to say, today we're seeing shutdown of Instagram, we're seeing the shutdown of WhatsApp. Tomorrow it can be Google. You just restricting. Tanzania experienced the internet restriction before the election, where you wake up. We've experienced similar pattern in Nigeria in 2021 when Twitter was shut down. You just wake up and you decide to shut down a platform. And these oversight boards are not very swift in their responses. They do not protect the group. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Lucy, we actually had a bit of a problem with your network as well. I think the network today is really, really crazy. But then, tell us, Lucy, is this moment exposing, would you say that this moment is actually exposing a deeper problem, that African countries want stronger digital sovereignty while civil society wants stronger digital rights? Is there any middle ground in all of this?
Can you come again? I'm losing you.
I said, would you, say that in this moment, this particular moment is exposing a deeper problem, that African countries want stronger digital sovereignty while civil society rights want digital rights? Like, is there a middle ground? Is there any middle ground in this? Well, welcome back. I think the network, I don't know, has been crazy. But at this moment, I really do not have any questions to ask. And I think we would just love to have the final thoughts of our guests that are available. Let's begin with Ridwan. Ridwan, you didn't quite say a lot today. So let's have your final thoughts if you can hear me.
Yes, I think I enjoyed the conversation. Of course, internet has been creepy. I get kicked in, kicked out, and yes,
Yeah, sorry
thank
about
God
that.
I'm here finally.
Yeah.
I really think that when we look at the case of the platforms that go to comply with instructions from government, I think it's more about business as usual for them. If you look at the many scenarios that had played out, even outside of Africa, where government get to sanction some of these platforms, say for instance, Twitter, Facebook, or any of the social media in time past, you would agree that many of them no longer want to lose whatever it is in terms of business, in terms of money, in terms of finance. Everybody is trying to, protect their money back. And I think that is why when there are requests from governments, they will really not have any sense of should we turn this down, should we fight this through. It is better we just say yes and leave the user to, you have the opportunity to appeal, you could take it legal with them, and that is left to you. But for them to protect their business, I think that is why you will see them comply as requests. So pretty much that's what I think I could add to the voice in terms of what is it like for this platform? Why are they always...
Okay, well, there you have it. Let's hear from Abdullahi. Final thoughts, Abdullahi?
Civil society actors, regulators, we have to keep pushing for better laws, not raising of these big laws. The laws in Africa are really, really big. Content moderation, we have to keep pushing for this thing, because for every opposition, the government cannot just wake up and choose to shut down the internet, choose to shut down a platform, choose to take down people's accounts. So it's very important there are regulations around this thing. Middle grounds are made, there are regulations around these things. Like I said, the platforms too, in as much as they're trying to, they're in this country locally, if they do not tend to the request of this government, they face things like fine, to be restricted. But then there are things around issues with this human rights. There should be human rights assessment. There are processes, there are things to go through, assessing everything to ensure that you're not violating the human right of the citizens in that country as a platform, to ensure that you're not violating the human right of the citizens in that country, or you're not supporting the government to take down for censorship, because these informations are very vital to go out there. These big critical voices. Kamani has 2.7 million followers, like I mentioned. That is a very big Instagram account. So taking down that account at that point, it's like restricting lots of people from understanding or getting insight on what is happening post-election in Tanzania. That is very, very critical. So these are the things that we need to push forward for.
All right, Lucy, sadly we have to wrap up now, but thank you so much for your time and for speaking on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
So would love to appreciate Lucy Azemba, Abdullahi Elas, and Ridwan Adelaja. We appreciate you for your time. And that's all for the conversation today. Do not forget to catch up on missed episodes on our YouTube channel at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, on GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Until next time, I'm Darshan Usman.